The King's Avatar, Chapter 1470 Wild Happy. Audio source, whooshaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1470, Wild Happy. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. After looking over the clues and reviewing the contents of the previous rounds in this match, Lee Yibo was even more confident in his views. When the two sides first clashed, it had been extremely unfavorable for Happy. At that time, they could have evaded Blue Rain's downwind assault, but Happy stubbornly chose to stay and face them. Lee Yibo wanted to say he didn't understand their choice, but didn't have time to because the pace of the match had been too fast, especially with one side getting a speed boost from the strong winds. But then, the situation had unwittingly unfolded into the present state. Along the way, there were simply too many details worth talking about to think Happy would actually use such a strategy. Speaking of which, does this count as a strategy? Pan Lin said after listening to Lee Yibo's analysis. Lee Yibo forced a smile. A strategy usually entailed structure, but Happy's strategy changed depending on the situation. It was completely chaotic. It couldn't really be considered as a strategy. But the important part was that Happy succeed, at least for now. Blue Rain wasn't able to display their home game advantage. If they win like this, Pan Lin didn't know what to say. If just randomly fighting could win, then the win wouldn't just be over Team Blue Rain. It could be considered a slap to the term pro-level playing. Were strategy and tactics actually meaningless in a competition? This isn't something that can be accomplished just by playing around randomly. Lee Yibo laughed. Oh, think about Team Happy's background. Lee Yibo said. The current Happy was no longer an unremarkable grassroots internet cafe team. They were a top 8 team that had made it into the playoffs. There were no weak teams in the playoffs, because anyone that could stand here had experienced the test of an entire season. Perhaps winning the Challenger League could be done by a fluke of luck because that was an elimination tournament format. But there was no luck in the regular season. It was 38 rounds of back and forth. How could it be so convenient as to always be lucky? In a competition of skill, the skilled teams would receive attention, especially for a team like Happy, where there was always something to talk about. As a result, the media had pretty much dug up all there was to know about the members of Team Happy. Team Happy's background? Pan Lin stared blankly. He had always followed Team Happy closely. With Lee Yibo's reminder, he immediately thought of all the details of Happy's team roster. Compared to the teams that went through the Alliance's investigation to make it into the league, Team Happy didn't suddenly become known in a single day. Their team had history which could be traced back all the way to the opening of the 10th server. Yes, the opening of the 10th server. Too many people remembers how in the first day of the 10th server, the name Lord Grim kept popping up in the world chat, which could be checked. Many of the first kill records in the 10th server's beginner village were held by Lord Grim. The opening of the 10th server was the day of Yishu's retirement. The story could be easily pieced together. Many 10th server players could describe the terrifying dungeon record wars that followed. And in this war, the name Lord Grim could not be missed. He held countless spots on the leaderboards, a member of one guild one day and then a different guild the next day. Whether it was Tyrannical Ambition or Blue Brook Guild, there were traces of Lord Grim. The members of these guilds had leaked out that at that time, Lord Grim had already been holding that crazy transforming myriad manifestations umbrella. They also stated with certainty that Yishu had 2 partners by his side, Soft Mist and Steamed Bun Invasion. Later, Concealed Light and 1-Inch Ash joined. Pro characters were stored in Glory's in-game servers too. Happy's characters could be searched and verified as created in the 10th server. Team Happy was a new team from head to toe. Almost all of their members had come from the 10th server. And how had they grown throughout this journey? Pan Lin knew. Li Yibo had wanted him to think of this point. Happy's players had grown together through chaotic fights. From a trusted information source, in the 10th server, Lord Grimm had become a public enemy of all the top guilds. These top guilds weren't just random player guilds, but club guilds, guilds with a powerful background. Because Yi Shu's investment into the 10th server had disrupted the balance between the guilds. When he reached level 50 and entered the heavenly domain, the top guilds had allied together and went on a hunt for him. According to another trusted information source, deception had appeared besides Lord Grimm at that point. Happy left behind a very clear trail in history. And this trail was made up entirely of the blood and tears of the big guilds. And Happy's players had trained and grown in these sorts of fights. 5v5 team battle. Too small scale. In the game, 5 players was just half a team. A team was 10 players, and a group consisted of 10 teams, 100 players. Even if the skill levels of those 100 players couldn't compare to a pro level, it was obvious which one would be more chaotic. No. Making the fight chaotic wasn't because Happy had no idea what to do against Blue Rain in the home game. Rather, it was because it was the best way of facing Blue Rain and the playstyle they were most adept at. How long had it been since pro players had experienced chaotic fights like those in the game? They were used to logical and structured 5v5 fights. Such wild chaos hadn't been seen in so long. Perhaps even many of the players who came from the club training camps didn't have these types of experiences. If pro teams were thrown into the game, they could deal with any in-game matter without a problem. But the pros would be relying on their superior intuition and technique to bully in-game players. However, Blue Rain wasn't playing against normal players. Blue Rain was facing Team Happy, a playoffs team. Happy had been a mess at the start, and now, Blue Rain was also in a mess. But Happy was happy being in a mess. Amidst this chaos, there was rhythm and synergy. But Blue Rain was truly a mess. They couldn't find the appropriate rhythm, or perhaps, it could be said that they weren't able to establish one. Boundless Sea and Steamed Bun Invasion had feigned a pincer attack on Swaxar, but then suddenly turned to pincer attack Soul Speaker instead. Team Blue Rain was in disorder. Swaxar turned to cast a curse, but this time, Sumuchung locked onto him. She fired a shot at him, forcing Yu Wenzu to avoid it. Details such as Yi Shu using guard to crash into Steamed Bun Invasion and helping him accelerate were lost by the viewers. The match was developing simply too fast. Right now, Yi Shu was violently attacking Lu Hanwen's flowing cloud, pushing him back. On the other end, Huang Shaoshan's troubling rain wanted to get past him, but his attempt didn't escape Yi Shu's notice. Lord Grimm suddenly swept across the field with a Xing arc, cutting troubling rain off. After 2 quick swipes, Huang Shaoshan had no choice but to have troubling rain retreat. Paladins wore plate armor. Although their defense was much higher than clerics, their movements were much slower. Boundless Sea and Steamed Bun Invasion made his way to him practically unarmed. Zhu Jingshi saw them clearly. He obviously had no intentions of being a sitting duck. Soul Speaker ready to Halo Smash. Whoever first reached him would receive a hit back, creating an opening for him. Which one? Zhu Jingshi's Soul Speaker retreated 2 steps, so he could see the attacks from his left and right more clearly. They're here. WuxaWorldAudio.com. On his left side, Boundless Sea raised his 2 hands, letting out a blast of chi. Zhu Jingshi immediately acted and ready to Halo Smash but Cloud Grasping Fist. Boundless Sea had unexpectedly used a Cloud Grasping Fist. This skill grabbed the target. It dealt no damage, so it wasn't something Halo Smash could reflect back. Zhu Jingshi was depressed. He didn't know if he should blame luck or if it was because Fang Rui had seen through him. Then, what about Steamed Bun Invasion? As he moved to make it more difficult for Boundless Sea to grab him, Zhu Jingshi looked towards Steamed Bun Invasion and saw something coming towards him. He immediately tilted his head. Who? A brick whistled by. There wasn't enough time to activate Halo Smash. To think you dodged it, Steamed Bun was surprised. Blue Rain's players really are amazing. Steamed Bun finally said a few kind words to Blue Rain, but Blue Rain's players nor fans could feel excited about these words in any way. From what he was saying, dodging his brick was an incredible feat. Blue Rain's two Blade Masters were blocked by Yi Xiu. Yu Wenzu was busy dealing with Su Mucheng and didn't have time to help. Only Zheng Xuan was left. The spiritless Zheng Xuan didn't dare be negligent. His bullet rain rushed towards Soul Speaker, with his sights locked onto Steamed Bun Invasion and Boundless Sea. Then, Zheng Xuan personally witnessed a kidnapping take place. Could this even be called a fight? Zheng Xuan felt his mind go hazy. Steamed Bun Invasion and Boundless Sea, two fighter classes were surrounding their healer, punching and kicking him. You would expect a few skills to be used, no? But the two enemies were just swinging their arms and legs. You couldn't even tell whose arm or leg it was. And as Soul Speaker was beaten up, it looked like he was being forcefully dragged towards an area. The Wind Zone. Those two guys wanted to kidnap Soul Speaker and bring him into the Wind Zone. If that happened, Blue Rain would have trouble taking advantage of the terrain to rescue him. How stressful. Zheng Xuan had become the team's only hope, and he couldn't help but mutter his catchphrase. Then, he charged forward resolutely. Let go of our healer. Quote. To motivate himself, Zheng Xuan gave a shout in the chat. Someone's here. What do we do? Steamed Bun said. From the way he phrased it, it really did sound like they had been caught in the middle of a kidnapping. Pretend we didn't see him. Fang Rui said. How smart. Steamed Bun said. Zheng Xuan was infuriated. Did he really pose no threat to them? End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1471 can never be overlooked at any moment. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1471 can never be overlooked at any moment. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Bullet Rain. Bullet Rain. In this sort of critical moment, Zheng Xuan usually liked to drop a "how stressful" in the chat before acting. But this time, in a rare sight, he didn't complain at all. Just like that, Bullet Rain, scattering a rain of bullets, rushed forward. Boom 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 boom. A road paved with the fireworks of explosions. When a Spitfire went on full offensive, the sight was as splendid and colorful as a mage's attacks. Zhang Jiale, the creator of the 100 Blossoms style, used this point to the fullest, and those who came after him all learned something from the 100 Blossoms style. Perhaps they wouldn't take advantage of the special effects of the attacks to the peak like he did. But for Spitfires, how dazzling the offensive was became an important metric for gauging strength. Zheng Xuan, this unmotivated guy, was currently playing an unusually dazzling game. He had always been viewed as the best Spitfire player after Zhang Jiale. And he'd even had the opportunity to go to 100 Blossoms to fill the gap that had been left by Zhang Jiale's retirement, and become that team's core. But Zheng Xuan's unmotivated personality led him to reject that kind of invitation. And not long after that, another Blue Rain player, Yu Feng, left for 100 Blossoms. As a berserker, he lifted up this team. So, these two teams still ended up completing this kind of exchange. Because of his lack of motivation, Zheng Xuan had suffered more than a bit of criticism. But he never minded the opinions of the outside world. There was no ambition in his chest. He never cared about how important he was, how much people looked up to him, how much they expected from him. But now, Zheng Xuan resolutely focused all of his spirit. Because the situation they faced now was extremely dire. If their healer was really dragged into the wind zone by Fang Rui and Steamed Bun, saving him would become extremely difficult, and they would lose the initiative completely. But this by itself wasn't enough to force Zheng Xuan to focus. What really caused him to focus was the fact that, in such critical moments, he didn't want to let his teammates down. Yes, he was an unmotivated person, but Blue Rain, his Blue Rain teammates, accepted his personality. They allowed him to be lazy sometimes. They allowed him to bring that dull, listless performance sometimes, where others would be grinding their teeth in frustration. This wasn't to say that Blue Rain was really that casual. This was all because Blue Rain's players, always had faith in Zheng Xuan's judgment. Laziness, listlessness. Whenever Zheng Xuan displayed these traits, it was always during irrelevant moments. But any time things were at a crucial point, this guy would always rush forward with the "how stressful" on his tongue. He had never dropped the ball before. His teammates accepted him, and Zheng Xuan wasn't someone who couldn't tell good from bad. He always repaid everyone's acceptance. He understood that, standing on this battlefield, he wasn't fighting just for himself. Sometimes, he could give up without a care, but the team couldn't. His teammates couldn't. And so, he would continue to walk with everyone. In the end, he lived up to the trust everyone had in him. Unmotivated. If this was truly a competition where everyone only strove for individual honor, Zheng Xuan probably would have been eliminated from this circle long ago. But glory was a team project. It wasn't a single-player game. It wasn't that Zheng Xuan lacked motivation, it was that his motivation needed to be inspired from different sources. Such as for his teammates, for the team. For him, paying enough trust would earn the deepest repayment. And Team Blue Rain had done exactly this. Charge. Seeing Zheng Xuan control Bullet Rain, Blue Rain's fans exploded with cheers. At crucial moments, no one could slack off. The audience, the players, including Happy's players. Yishu's Lord Grimm was forcefully holding back Huang Shaoshan and Lu Hanwen both. Su Mucheng's launcher was preventing Yu Wenzu's Swaxar from casting a single curse. Weren't Happy's players putting their all into seizing this opportunity firmly? Fang Rui told Steamed Bun to ignore the attacks from Bullet Rain. But, could they be ignored? Freezing Bullet, Flash Bullet, Electric Grenade, Implosion Grenade. Spitfires were not a class that only dealt damage. They had great crowd control. And attacks that had controlling effects simply could not be ignored. When Fang Rui said to ignore them, Happy's fans were scared to death. They thought, how could they be ignored? And Steamed Bun's answer, how smart, only frightened them even more. These two conducting their kidnapping, they were really audacious to the extreme. They really dared to ignore him. Bullet Rain poured down, everything was coming to a head, and these two audacious fellows didn't disappoint, they really dared. Go 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 go. Steamed Bun shouted in the chat, and as he shouted, he furiously unleashed punches and kicks upon Soul Speaker. Zhu Jingxi understood the current situation. He didn't have much means of fighting back, but he could put up a resistance. Throw here. Fang Rui suddenly called in the chat. Steamed Bun, who liked to complain, didn't bother to say anything this time. He lifted up Soul Speaker and swung. Fling. Even though it was a grappler skill, it was a sub-level 20 skill, so all fighters could learn it. None of the four fighter subclasses would completely neglect this kind of forceful grab skill. Compared to the grappler, which had its grab-strengthening classing skill, the other three classes couldn't use the skill to the same effectiveness. But the skill could still throw the target, living up to its name. Soul Speaker flew. Plate armor wasn't light in weight, added to the fact that Steamed Bun Invasion's fling was only so strong. His flight wasn't long, he'd only just flown out of Steamed Bun Invasion's hands before it looked like he was about to land. But Fang Rui's Boundless Sea was already ready to catch him. Fling relay! Pan Lin exclaimed. It's still not enough, Li Yibo said. Even if they tried to relay throw him, they were still too far from the wind zone. Boundless Sea's fling was even weaker, because the Chi Master's strength was a bit less than the Brawler's. But at that moment, a grenade landed right behind Boundless Sea as he was grabbing Soul Speaker. The grenade cracked and split in two, and a powerful force began to draw in the surrounding air. Implosion! Pan Lin once again exclaimed. Instantly, he understood. They thought that it wasn't enough because they only saw what was in front of them. Fang Rui thought that it was enough because he saw the whole situation. He saw that Bullet Rain had thrown an implosion grenade their way, and he was going to use the momentum brought by this implosion grenade. The airflow drew everything inward, sending the plants scattering. Boundless Sea, right next to the grenade, was instantly sent flying by the grenade, but his two hands were still gripping Soul Speaker. This was a priority that the implosion grenade couldn't break. Fly out. The two characters flew out together. Exclamations sounded throughout the crowd of Blue Rain fans, who were all thinking, "It's over, it's over. Don't underestimate me." Quote. But at this moment, Zheng Xuan didn't say his catchphrase, "How stressful," but instead exploded with this shout. Bullet Rain changed direction, chasing the two characters flying through the air, madly going after them. Those dazzling explosions upon the ground were now aimed into the air, exploding non-stop next to Boundless Sea and Soul Speaker. What godly gun technique! Everyone was shocked. Because the two characters were stuck together by the grab, they flew a bit more slowly from the explosion than they otherwise would have. But to focus fire completely upon the trajectory they followed, thoroughly bombarding their bodies, how many people could do what Zheng Xuan did? WuxaWorldAudio.com. The applause swallowed the Blue Rain Stadium. Zheng Xuan, this person who never had motivation, now displayed such a thrilling performance at this crucial moment. It surprised everyone, it raised everyone's spirits. And were these attacks just to deal damage? Of course not. The implosion sent them flying quickly. Zheng Xuan's attacks chased after them quickly. Everything happened in an instant. But the trajectory of the two flying characters, under Bullet Rain's attacks, was changed. It was clear to see that the two stuck-together characters wouldn't land in the wind zone. Even if Boundless Sea tried to fling now, there was no way he could send Soul Speaker into the wind zone. The applause became even more enthusiastic. So much that no one noticed a gunshot that was separate from Bullet Rain's mid-air firing, a gunshot that was different from Dancing Rain's explosive artillery fire. With a gunshot, Bullet Rain's attacks were extinguished, and after that, Zheng Xuan saw a grenade fly past his sight, flying toward those two characters in the air. The type of the grenade clearly registered in Zheng Xuan's pupils. Implosion. A grenade he was incomparably familiar with. And its trajectory. No. Zheng Xuan desperately wanted to stop this grenade, but when he tried to control his character, Bullet Rain couldn't move. Of course, there was a reason why he couldn't move. Stun bullet. The earlier gunshot had been a stun bullet, stopping Bullet Rain's attacks for good. And after that, this implosion grenade flew outward. Zheng Xuan wanted to stop it but couldn't. Only with great effort could he move again, and he couldn't be bothered to figure out who had done all this. Bullet Rain lifted his guns, furiously trying to detonate that implosion grenade in midair. But it was too late. Perhaps the implosion grenade hadn't managed to fly to its most optimal position, but when it burst, it still accomplished the goal that Happy wanted. Whoosh! When the implosion grenade blasted open, there was this sharp sound of a twister. The two characters were still stumbling from their landing. One continued to stumble, while the other was picked up into the air again. Right now there wasn't a grab in effect, so that the implosion grenade only affected the opponent. Soul Speaker was sent flying once again, and the stumbling Boundless Sea simply rolled into a half-crouch. He didn't even bother to stand up straight. He chased after Soul Speaker, half-rolling, half-crawling. Behind him, Steamed Bun Invasion brandished his brick and aggressively followed. "It's over." Zheng Xuan was in despair. At last, he had nothing left to stop this. That damned stun bullet, that damned implosion grenade, that damned guy. Zheng Xuan already knew who had orchestrated this whole thing. It was that person who, at any moment, even if he was being pincered by dual-blade masters Huang Shaoshan and Lu Hanwen, could never be overlooked. That damned person, Yi Zhu. Lord Grimm. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1472. New Criminal Partners. Audio source, Wuxia-World-Audiobook.com. Chapter 1472. New Criminal Partners. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. If looks could kill, Yi Zhu and his Lord Grimm would have been dead by now from the crowd. Despite pressure from Huang Shaoshan's and Lu Hanwen's Blade Master duo, he was still able to find an opening at a crucial moment and complete Happy's plans. Wasn't that what it meant to be a core player? If the brilliant escape from Formless Phantom Blade could be considered as just dodging an attack, then this time, Yu Wenzu wouldn't be able to wave away the players just landing an attack. Anyone could see how fatal it was for Blue Rain to have Soul Speaker flying away at this moment. Seeing Soul Speaker tumble helplessly towards the wind zone, Blue Rain's fans hated how they couldn't reach out with their hands to help him get back his footing. No one could stop it though. The stadium was filled with sighs of despair. For Blue Rain, the outcome wouldn't just be the end of this match, but the end of Blue Rain's season. A powerhouse team making it into the playoffs was nothing noteworthy. They only had one goal, to be the champions. A season where they didn't win the championships was a failure for them. Were they actually going to fall in the quarterfinals of the playoffs? The match wasn't over yet, but Blue Rain's fans were already feeling pessimistic. Because no one could stop it from happening. Yes, no one. But there was the wind. When Soul Speaker entered the wind zone, he faced against the wind. As a result, the resistive force of the wind slowed his airspeed. Chants. Countless people cried out in their hearts. But in reality, they had no idea if this was an opportunity. They suddenly noticed a difference in how they expected things to turn out, so they thought it was an opportunity. And it really was one. However, it was different from the surprise the spectators felt. Blue Rain's players had anticipated this possibility. Swaxar raised his staff. Boom boom boom, Dancing Rain's artillery shells flew towards Swaxar. Su Mucheng wasn't going to mess up at a critical moment. Boom. Amidst the rumbling smoke from the explosions, Swaxar's staff was still flashing with a dark purple light. The curse hadn't been interrupted, meaning Dancing Rain's attacks hadn't hit. As the smoke dispersed, Troubling Rain's figure gradually appeared. Using your own body to block an attack was as stupid as it got. Perhaps because of how stupid it was, too many people would forget about this option. Huang Shaoshan did such a stupid-looking action at this crucial moment. He had let Yishu go and reached Swaksar's side to help block the incoming attacks. Yishu didn't react slowly either. When Troubling Rain suddenly jumped away, he realized something. He didn't block Troubling Rain. Instead, he immediately attacked Swaksar. But he was too late. By the time Lord Grim acted, Yishu knew it was too late. When Huang Shaoshan seized an opportunity, he wouldn't leave any openings behind. By the time Yishu noticed Troubling Rain's movements and made a decision, it was too late. Troubling Rain had been hit, and Swaksar was hit by Lord Grim's attack. However, the curse went through. Hexagram Prison. Swaksar had unexpectedly cast a hexagram prison. To seal Boundless Sea. To seal Steamed Bun Invasion. These two characters looked as if they could continue their kidnapping of Soul Speaker because the wind had stopped the kidnapping to reach its completion. Had Yuan Zhu cast a hexagram prison to stop one of them? No. When the hexagram prison descended, the one locked into place by the 6 seals was Soul Speaker, Team Blue Rain's Paladin. Everyone was startled, but understood soon afterwards. Anything sealed by hexagram prison would take no damage, and the prison could not be broken. There was only one way to dispel hexagram prison: wait until the duration of the curse ended. Even if the caster died, the prison would stay in existence. This was the difference between a warlock and a mage. Mages used mana and incantations to create magic. When the mage died, their magic would disappear as well. But warlocks used their mana to create a sort of contract. Even if the warlock died, the contract would still exist. Thus, the curse would last until the contract's conditions were fulfilled. The hexagram prison locked Soul Speaker, but it wasn't to seal him away, it was to protect him. Boundless Sea and Steamed Bun Invasion could attack Soul Speaker, but they would have no way to carry Soul Speaker out further into the wind zone. They could only wait on the side for these 10 seconds and wait for Team Blue Rain to rescue their healer. 10 seconds. That was how long Swaksar's hexagram prison lasted. Beautiful. Zheng Xuan was suddenly reinvigorated, after losing a lot of morale from Yishu stopping his attacks. Bullet Rain raised his guns, but then, he saw that Boundless Sea didn't dodge or let up. It was as if he couldn't see the hexagram prison as he crashed straight into it. Crash. When Boundless Sea touched the hexagram prison, the pillars of light entered his body. In the next instant, Boundless Sea was forcefully dragged inside the prison, right next to Soul Speaker. Without any hesitation, Fang Rui's Boundless Sea threw Soul Speaker to the ground. Soon afterwards, Steamed Bun Invasion also charged into the hexagram prison, locking himself up too. He stomped on Soul Speaker twice. The audience was dumbfounded. The old criminal partners consisted of Fang Rui's thief and Lin Jingyan's brawler. Their nickname mainly came from their classes. A thief and a brawler. If they weren't committing crimes, what were they doing? But looking at the two criminals in front of them, Fang Rui had switched to a Chi Master, which had zero relationship with criminal activities. Steamed Bun Invasion was a brawler, but he was a rookie. However, the two of them together were truly criminal to the core. Soul Speaker had been thrown into the hexagram prison, and the two of them threw themselves in as well to continue beating him up. It was too evil, too immoral, too criminal. That was what the audience thought, but to Blue Rain's pro players, this was a tactic. Boundless Sea and Steamed Bun Invasion looked as if they were walking right into a trap. But in this way, no matter what Blue Rain did, the instant the hexagram prison disappeared, these two would still be the closest to Soul Speaker. When that time came, the two would still hold the initiative. Would Team Blue Rain be able to immediately stop the two as soon as the hexagram prison went away? Probably not. Su Mucheng and Yishu, one far one close, wouldn't make it easy for them. Team Blue Rain's players laughed bitterly. Yu Wenzu even more so. He just couldn't get a handle on those two. In any case, Blue Rain still need to try. The two locked by hexagram prison had better not think about dodging any attacks. Among the three Blue Rain players who could reach them, just Zheng Xuan's Spitfire alone could cover both at once. However, just attacks alone wouldn't be able to split those two away from each other. Even if an implosion grenade was thrown, the two couldn't be thrown outside of the hexagram prison. Their movements would be locked down by hexagram prison. Right now, they couldn't do anything. The key moment would come the instant hexagram prison dissipated. Blue Rain's players knew the timing, but Happy probably did too. Data such as the duration of skills couldn't be hidden. 10. Zheng Xuan's bullet rain attacked. Swaxar continued to be suppressed by dancing rain. Huang Shaoshan and Lu Hanwen continued to be blocked by Yi Xiu. 9. All of them moved towards the hexagram prison at the same time. 8. The same. 7. The same. 6. The crowd in the stadium went onto their feet. 5. Another second passed. 4. Troubling rain and flowing cloud suddenly switched positions. 3. Both Blade Masters used shadow steps simultaneously, instantly filling the field with 19 shadows. WuxaWorldAudio.com. 2. All of the scattered shadows rushed towards the hexagram prison. 1. Lord Grim chased after them and caught the real flowing cloud. 0. Hexagram prison disappeared. In the end, Huang Shaoshan was more experienced. His real body was able to escape from Lord Grim's entanglement. Meteor form. Ice rain swung forward, sword light flying. To stop a target, a skill with a force knockdown was the most optimal choice. Chi Wave Shield. But Happy's two players were ready. Don't look at how much of a bully the two looked like while in prison. In reality, there was a lot of thought going into it. They had been counting the 10 seconds too, or at least Fang Rui was. A Chi Wave Shield was pushed out the instant the hexagram prison went away. The sword shadows fell onto the Chi Wave Shield. This skill covered a much smaller area, but its defensive capabilities were much higher than Chi Guard. The entirety of Meteor form was blocked by the Chi Wave Shield. Huang Shaoshan wanted to follow with another attack, but Yi Xiu's Lord Grim had reached behind him. Huang Shaoshan had paid too much attention to this end and neglected his back. Just when he was about to attack, Troubling Rain was suddenly launched into the air. Bang! With a falling flower palm, Lord Grim sent Troubling Rain flying and then chased after him. Huang Shaoshan had been too focused on the main issue at hand and had neglected Yi Xiu. However, Yi Xiu had also neglected Lu Hanwen to deal with Huang Shaoshan. As a result, the moment Huang Shaoshan was sent flying, Lu Hanwen also sent Yi Xiu flying. Troubling Rain flying outwards had interfered with Zheng Xuan though. He had saved up his cooldowns previously. Now, he had fired out all sorts of special bullets with CC effects. Suddenly, a wild Troubling Rain appeared. Glory had friendly fire off, but attacks couldn't just magically teleport past an ally. Huang Shaoshan was trying to control his character to not interfere with Zheng Xuan's offense, but many of the attacks still hit Troubling Rain. These attacks suddenly became like faulty goods, snuffed out without any effects coming out. On the other side, when Lu Hanwen had Flowing Cloud hit Lord Grim flying, he had done it with intention, sending Lord Grim crashing towards Boundless Sea and Steamed Bun Invasion. But just as Lord Grim was sent flying away, the Myriad Manifestations umbrella above his head went into rotor wings, and Lord Grim flew away on his own. End chapter.